All right, this is much weirder than I anticipated. All right, we're gonna let some people join in the live, and then we're gonna. So, hello everybody, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite post-show review. If you are watching this after the fact, then you just saw me go through my pre-live thoughts. But if you are watching this live, welcome to the live. This is my AEW Dynamite Winter is Coming post-show review. This is the first live on YouTube for me, at all. So I'm testing this out. I'm planning on having a little bit of a better setup down the road when it comes to doing these live post shows. But I figured why not go live tonight? Why wait and just see how it goes tonight? Perfectly fine, especially if you're watching this afterwards and you're not in the live chat. But as always, I always encourage you to drop your thoughts, comments down below, whether you agree or disagree with anything I said. I always love hearing your thoughts and opinions. So make sure you guys drop those thoughts down in the comments, whether you're in the live chat or you're watching this after the fact. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos, podcasts, and interviews that come to the channel. Check out the Kayfabe Central website that is linked down in the description of this live as well. That's where I post all my coverage posts, articles, written predictions, and all that good stuff is over there on the Kayfabe Central website. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that stuff out. We also have a group and community section over there on the Kayfabe Central website. So if that is something that interests you, then go over there and check it out. You can ask me any wrestling related questions you may have. And yeah, go ahead and check that stuff out. Community, build a community within Kayfabe Central to talk about wrestling amongst other wrestling fans, and go ahead and join up the Discord server that is also linked down below. Make sure you guys go over and follow me on TikTok and Instagram as well. I post a variety of different content over there also, so make sure you guys go check out that. All of that stuff is linked down below in the description. But with that being said, I'm going to jump straight into AEW Dynamite Winter is Coming. I was going to take the TikTok live route about this because that's what I'm more used to going. I quickly realized that, people are going to watch this afterwards and they're not going to want to see, 3 minutes of me just sitting here waiting for people to join the live. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, this is a trial. I usually have usually my name is at the bottom, like right here or whatever, right here. I can't do this, motion thing, but usually it's at the bottom because usually I do use Zoom to do these. Right now I'm just purely using the YouTube studio stuff to go live right now, but I plan on having a little bit of a better setup. I still have to look into that and set some things up with that. But I do want to go live for the post shows going forward, the weekly post shows, and even the podcast as well. So make something work there. And yeah, we're gonna try to go live as much as we can over here on YouTube now that YouTube is finally letting me. But let's jump straight into AEW Dynamite Winter is Coming. This took place in Atlanta, Georgia. Love to see that. You always love to see it when it comes to a wrestling show. You never, nobody likes a dead crowd, right? Nobody likes when the crowd is quiet and not invested. This crowd seemed very invested from the very beginning. So that's always good. It's always a good way to start. Then again, AEW doesn't usually have dead crowds. They don't usually have silent crowds. So, that's not a thing that they're usually used to. If anything, that usually happens on Collision, but that's just usually because the crowd is tired from Dynamite previously, and obviously Collision is taped finals. That was the Babes of Wrath defeating the Timeless Love Bombs to win the AEW. So I said going into this earlier this week, I believe it was on the Kayfabe recap that I said the Babes of Wrath should win this because they're the underdogs going into this, and I think that you need to have that underdog winning the big one kind of payoff in this, and that's the exact route that they went. The Babes of Wrath pick up the win, and yeah, this was in terms of the match quality. This wasn't as good as I was expecting it to be. I feel like I expected a little bit more from this match. there were some aspects of this match that just seemed a little bit sloppy. And you know what, it happens sometimes. I like Harley, I like Willow. Um, and maybe like hopefully they can go on for a good run with these tag titles. But the most loving the four women that are in the ring rather than the match quality itself. And when you're there live, I can understand that you're just there for the moments. For some people, it may be their first show they ever went to, and they're not too concerned about the match quality. But for like people like me who pay attention to everything and every little thing, the match itself just wasn't the greatest. It's a little bit of a downside, but I do like that Harley Cameron and Willow did win the tag titles here. It's going to be intriguing to see what's next for them and who their first challengers are going to be for those titles. Is it going to be the Sisters of Sin? Maybe we go that route. I'm not sure. We have to wait and see, but I think next week is just going to be some sort of celebration for them. They're not going to build anything too crazy. I can see them wanting Harley and Willow to defend those titles at World's End, though. So they probably are going to need to, start planting some seeds of what their next rivalry is going to be, because we all know AEW likes to stack their pay-per-views. They like to get as much talent as they possibly can on their pay-per-view. So, but yeah, the fine match to kick off AEW Dynamite. Winners coming. We then had a backstage segment. It was not an interview. It was just Samoa Joe and the Ops, where sent a message to Eddie Kingston. There was nothing too special about this. It was your, typical, I'm going to be like Eddie Kingston. And, pretty much kind of just brushing him off in a way and saying that you don't stand a chance tonight. I mentioned on the Kayfabe recap earlier this week that I don't know what Eddie Kingston did to deserve a title match. I think this should have just been a non-title match. We're going to get into Samoa Joe and Eddie Kingston a little bit later on, but I don't think that should have been a title match to begin with, because realistically, I don't think Eddie Kingston has done anything to earn a championship match. But that was your typical backstage segment to build. It was just Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta, and Marina Shafir. Claudio Castagnoli was nowhere to be seen on this show. But I think he's on Collision that's happening in Cardiff. And so maybe he's, traveling over to Cardiff. Maybe he's already made his way over there, so he wasn't on this episode of Dynamite. Tension between Claudio and Jon Moxley after Claudio beat him in the Continental Classic. So, yeah, I still think that we need to get that split. I think, like I said before, they're probably going to stretch this out for as long as they can. I'm not the biggest fan of that, because this Death Riders thing has been going on for quite some time now, but they seem to want to stretch it out a little bit. But Jon Moxley just cuts a promo about how he's not letting his low numbers in the Continental Classic affect him, and that he's going to keep on pushing, and that he's going to keep on, he's going to keep his foot on the proverbial gas pedal. The best way to, go about life is grab the things that you want, and that's what we're going to continue to do every single time. So pretty much just a hungry Death Riders here. And, you're not going to get a Dynamite episode without a Death Riders promo. That's almost an every week guarantee. So, your typical Death Rider stuff here. We then had a Continental Classic Gold League match with Kazuchika Okada defeating Jungle Jack Perry. Very solid match, as you could expect from these two. They put on a good outing. Jack Perry looked great. Okada looked great. There was a poison Rana in this match where it looked like Okada landed awkwardly on his head, but the guy's just a beast than an animal. So it didn't affect him. Yeah, again, great match. The match quality in the Continental Classic has been absolutely fantastic. I still stand by the points of it doesn't necessarily make sense with the whole championship stuff going on, and the unified championship and the international championship stuff. it doesn't necessarily make sense, but I do appreciate that we're getting really good matches out of this. And we had another great match in the Continental Classic Gold League a little bit later on that I'm going to dive into at some point. But after the match, Don Callis, who was on commentary, of course, um, offered Jack Perry a spot in the Don Callis family and said, I will give you this money that belonged to the Young Bucks. And Jack Perry pretty much just said that he's going to buy, and he attacks the Don Callis family, which, realistically is just what Jack Perry said, biting off more than you could chew. And that's a big damn bite because he went after all of them. He was eventually saved by the Young Bucks and Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus came out first, realized he was outnumbered, and hesitated a little bit until the Young Bucks came in and made the save, sending the Don Callis family running. So, really an elite reunion here, which, that's something else to dive into a little bit later on as well. Fun segment, fun match. This gets the thumbs up for me overall. Yeah, this was good. Backstage segment with Renee Paquette interviewing Eddie Kingston. Same deal as the Samoa Joe interview type, segments. Eddie Kingston said that he's going to give it all that he's got, and it's not going to be easy to put him down. So your generic babyface promo to go into a main event or into any big match kind of thing. There wasn't anything really special about this promo except for, people love Eddie Kingston because I think that it's because Eddie Kingston is relatable to a lot of people. So a lot of people just naturally get behind somebody like Eddie Kingston. So the fans appreciated him being on screen anyway. Mark Briscoe came out, kind of boasted about his TNT championship when he was interrupted by the Death Riders, Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia, and Marina Shafir. Start off with Wheeler Yuta talking some trash, and the crowd was obviously not letting him speak and, just chanting F you, Yuta. And he handed the mic over to Daniel Garcia, who this segment was really about because this Saturday on Collision, it is Daniel Garcia versus Mark Briscoe for the TNT Championship. So Daniel Garcia shared some words. He, the Death Riders mentioned Mark Briscoe's kids at one point, and said they're gonna send him back to the farm, something along those lines. I'm not remembering exactly. Solid enough segment. Mark Briscoe ends up punching Daniel Garcia, but Marina and Wheeler hold Garcia back and take him into the crowd, and that's the segment. So fine enough segment to build up for a match that's happening on Collision. I do kind of like the fact that we don't just book matches on Collision and just, do nothing with them. A lot of the time they do. And there's no promo or anything to build up to it. But I do like the fact that we got a whole in-ring segment. Plus, again, Mark Briscoe, similar to Eddie Kingston, is someone people just naturally get behind because he's relatable and everybody loves Mark Briscoe. So good way to get him out into the ring in front of the crowd on TV. Have this little segment with the Death Riders who everybody hates. You get your baby face over, you get your heels booed. It's your typical segment, right? The Triangle of Madness attacked two fellow wrestlers. I couldn't really make out who they've signed and some younger talent, but they were saved by Chris Statlander, who fought them off. We then had Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland defeating the Ops, Katsuyori Shibata, and Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, the thing with this match is I was watching it on my TV, and my Wi-Fi and my box just decided to not work, and it started to buffer a whole lot. So I missed this match entirely. I missed the entire match, and I had to find the results of what happened and type them in on the website. So I have no idea how this match went down based off of Twitter and, some other people talking about it. It seemed like they put on a really solid match, and the chemistry between Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland was very evident, and it was very good to see. So I apologize for that. My TV was just giving some technical difficulties. And it was with the Don Callis segment that followed that. where he just pretty much wasn't happy that the Young Bucks and Jack Perry declined his offer. Again, I didn't see this segment either because of my TV, so I didn't really hear exactly what he said. Um, but that was that. I eventually just switched over to my laptop and finished watching Dynamite over there. Um, then that took us between Kyle Fletcher and Speedball Mike Bailey. This was a fantastic match, an insane match. These two are so damn good. So damn good. And I went into this saying that you should keep Kyle Fletcher strong. I was under the thought process that you should just have Kyle Fletcher win every match until the semifinals. But Speedball Mike Bailey, because this match was absolutely amazing. It was tremendous. This just goes to show how good both of these guys are. Speedball Mike Bailey is somebody that, I've, watched in person a couple times as well, because he's been a very prominent figure here in Ontario wrestling as well. So I've always known what Speedball Mike Bailey can do. I watched him even when he was in TNA, and I've followed for his career for a few years now. And obviously, Kyle Fletcher does what Kyle Fletcher does. It's not a surprise to us anymore when he puts on a banger match. Um, yeah, I'm not mad at this at all. Speedball had 0 points going into this. You get him 3 points. Kyle Fletcher is still tied with Okada at the top of the leaderboard with 6. So that makes things a little bit more interesting. I am surprised we haven't got a draw yet, though. I don't know if we have on but yeah, I don't think we've gotten a draw at all yet in this tournament, which is interesting. I do think that we're eventually bound to get a draw at some point. Even towards the end, I thought this match was going to end in a draw, but that was not the case. Um, if I had to, nitpick, and I hate nitpicking on a fantastic match like this, I still would have had at least Fletcher win or a draw in this scenario. But I get, AEW probably just wanted to give Speedball some points on the saying that this was do or die for Speedball Mike Bailey. So this is perfectly fine. Like I said, I'm not mad that Speedball won this match. I think he deserves it. And they put on a fantastic match. And, one I'll keep in consideration of a match of the year candidate, even though I don't think it's going to top the list because, you have pay-per-view matches and all that stuff from this year as well. So, but it's definitely one to keep in consideration and definitely one to go back and watch if you missed it. Backstage, Renee Paquette asked Hangman Adam Page what's next for him after he and Swerve beat the Ops earlier today. And Hangman said, the goal is the same as always. I want the AEW Men's World Championship. On the Eddie Kingston Samoa Joe match in the main event. And he is going to be going after the winner of that match at World's End. So Hangman Adam Page is not done chasing the AEW World Championship. He is still going after that. We had another thing before we got to the main event, though. That was the Young Bucks in the back. They first asked Luchasaurus to be a part of their team, but I actually didn't really catch what Luchasaurus said. But I'm assuming he said no or something along those lines. They then went to the locker room of Kenny Omega and asked him, how about one more time? How about one more time the Elite get back together and we take it to the Don Callis family for all this money? This is a lot of money, and we need to fight them. And Kenny Omega says, I don't want the money. It's a Don Callis family. I do it for free. So Kenny Omega agrees to join the Young Bucks next week in Manchester for a 3-hour special Dynamite to take on the Don Callis family. I actually didn't pay too much attention to the graphic to see this. But either way, this should be a lot of fun. The Elite getting back together. They always have chemistry together in the ring because of how much history they have, of course. So, yeah, fun segment. That's just Kenny Omega for you. Everybody loves Kenny. He does his goodbye, good night, and bang thing. Fun. This was a fun little set. I kind of don't want this to be the storyline goes on a little bit longer because there's no way they just end it like that. Then again, it's not guaranteed that the Elite beat the Don Callis family next week. I think it's more than likely they do, but it's not obviously not guaranteed. Nothing is absolutely guaranteed. in wrestling. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. I do want to see them team up a few more times, though, just because it's the elite. They'll always put on a good match. That. And I don't think these guys right now, Kenny or the Young Bucks, are being set up for anything huge at the moment either, unless they want the Young Bucks. Not anytime soon. But that took us to the main event of the evening. Samoa beats Eddie Kingston by making him tap out with the coquina clutch, and retains the AEW World Championship. This was a solid match. A lot of hard hitting, counters in this match, as you can expect with a match with Eddie Kingston and Samoa Joe. Definitely Eddie Kingston's best match since he has returned. Another thing I mentioned is that he hasn't had a banger since he's been back, and I think this came very close to a banger. This wasn't a bad match at all. This was a slugfest, and everybody loves a slugfest once in a while. So I think this was completely fine. And obviously Samoa Joe walking out still AEW World Champion was fairly predictable, but my opinion that this shouldn't have been for the championship, but maybe they're just doing the thing where Joe defends the title in whatever match he's in and defends it as much as he can. But if we follow up from what we had earlier, it seems like we are going to get a rematch between Hangman Adam Page for Samoa Joe at World. Maybe wins the title back. Maybe this was just a short stint with the title for Joe to get another world title reign on him, and then Hangman wins it back. I wonder where this leaves Swerve, though, because where does Swerve go now? He's not in the Continental Classic, obviously. And is Hangman just going to leave Swerve, hanging a little bit? Are they going to reignite the Swerve and Hangman feud? I don't know if that's something I necessarily want to see. Maybe like a few years down the road, revisit it and be like, we have a lot of history and now we're back at it. But as of right now, I don't think I will be. It's something we've just seen so many times, and you have so many other people you can do things with. But it makes me curious as to what they're gonna do with Swerve Strickland from here on out. I don't know if Hangman comes up short at World's End potentially, and maybe Hangman and Swerve go after the tag titles together and they beat FTR. Maybe we get an encounter with Hangman and Swerve versus the Young Bucks. Who knows? I can't really tell what their plans are for Swerve or the Swerve and Hangman tag team if they want to continue it. It's just something we got to wait and see how it goes. Maybe we'll get something from Swerve next week where it's kind of like, hold on, dude, like we just teamed together and now you're just gonna leave me in the dust to go chase the AEW World title again. I think we're gonna have some problems here. So maybe something like that happens, because realistically, Swerve, should be a little bit upset. He should question it a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. But that was AEW Dynamite winners coming on December 10th, 2025. A very solid show, top to bottom. A show that I genuinely enjoyed. I think there was a lot of good things on this show. There was good storyline progression on this show, and storyline advancement, all that good stuff. There wasn't anything on the show that I necessarily just didn't like at all. I didn't find myself at any point tonight being like, oh, I can't stand this, or this is terrible. This was a solid show of Dynamite from top to bottom, and they did a good job with this show and with Winter is Coming. So, for a TV special episode, this was really good. And I give it a thumbs up. And it's definitely a show to go back and watch if you did miss it. And I always like adding that at the end, because sometimes people will be like, okay, well, is it worth going back and watching? I think this is one of those episodes that it's worth going back and watching. There's a lot of good matches on here, especially the one with Speedball Mike Bailey and Kyle Fletcher. Absolutely fantastic match, and definitely one you should check out. I can see AEW putting that on their YouTube channel at some point, that entire match, because of how but yeah, as always, like I mentioned at the start, make sure you guys let me know your thoughts down in the comments or in the chat. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on AEW Dynamite as winners. AEW Dynamite winner is coming. That's such a long name, and I've been struggling to say it all night for some reason. But let me know your thoughts down in the talk, the Kayfabe Central website, the Kayfabe Central Discord server, a plethora of different ways to let me know your thoughts and opinions. Obviously, over on X or slash Twitter as well. So all those links are linked down in the description. So make sure you guys go check that out. Follow me over on everything on all social media so you're up to date with all the stuff. Hit that little bell down below so you're notified anytime a post show drops, a podcast drops, whatever the case may be, an interview, anytime that drops. If you but with that being said, I'm going to wrap up and call it a night. Yeah, once again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I will be back on Friday with the Friday Night SmackDown post show review. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And until the next one, take it easy.